You have to start somewhere. Erica, this is a start for you then.
I think it's a start, and I think Larry makes a great point in the beginning, which is Congress is so often serving themselves instead of serving the American people. And one of the reasons that they do that is because they are rewarded on, how well they do bringing home the bacon to their constituencies. And what President Obama is trying to say with this bill is, let me be accountable for the choices that we make as a nation. So, for example, President Obama wanted 95% of Americans to get a tax cut this year, while we have $800,000 getting spent in this budget for catfish genome mapping in Alabama. That's the difference between how these regional priorities or district priorities can be different than the national priority. So I think Larry makes a great point,
Erica, but the point of the matter is that this catfish financing thing, which I knew nothing about. Thank you for updating me on that.
and actually, it's not just, it's $800,000 this year, but it's been $3.4 million since 2001.
But I'm just saying that was crucial to getting that congressman or congresswoman's vote, to say nothing of a senator of the state involved. So that's the kind of deal making you do. Now, if the president then rolls out, and Republicans have done this as well, this holy roller mantle that I'm above this and I'm going to call you on this.
Right.
Can you really see him calling Democrats on this?
I think he's going to call everybody on it. And one of the reasons I really do. And one of the reasons I think he will is that his brand is wrapped around this idea of post-partisanship. And I think you'll see this going forward when President Obama, if this passes,
Erica,
and he's going into
2012. It's been very partisan. It's been overwhelmingly Democratic votes and overwhelmingly Republican rejections. So
I think that,
what would sell the post-partisanship thing?
So the post-partisanship, walking into the 2012 election, President Obama is going to need to make a case to the American people that he was looking after their broader priorities. And what better thing to run on than saying to people, I eliminated $800,000 of spending on catfish genome mapping,
Erica,
but I gave 95% of you a tax cut.
I don't see it. If I'm going to lecture to people, eat a salad, and they see that I brought in my lunch a suitcase full of Napoleons and eclairs, they're going to say, well, Neil, that bakery dog don't hunt. And you are hardly the one to lecture people on healthy eating, because they're going to see the record, and they're going to see what I've done, and they're going to see the abuses that I myself have taken part in. So how is this going to exonerate the White House from sins it has committed?
I think this is a question of values. And so what President Obama has said is that he values people having health insurance. So a lot of people in the country don't agree with the health reform bill. But what he wanted to spend his political capital on was getting 45 million Americans who don't have health insurance to have health insurance.
No doubt, but he did it by making the very deals.
That is a value proposition.
But he did it by making the very deals that he is criticizing now.
And there's a big difference between health insurance and catfish genome mapping.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
The catfish type of deals were among those that got him stimulus, that got him health care, the kind of trade-offs that we've seen. And now these same politicians are going to come back to him and say, you are a hypocrite.
Well, listen, there's no doubt that there's going to be a big pushback from Congress, but Congress is going to have a hard leg to stand on. I think their approval rating right now is about 14%. So, their moms and dads like them, but not much else. And so this is really, this is going to be a tussle between a regional way of governing and a national way of governing. And we have national problems. We have a global economy.
He hasn't done it. Well, he's preached one thing and said another. And by the way, not the first president to do so.
I don't agree with that.
He's $2 trillion deep in spending, Erica.
Well, the health care bill that he put out actually, depending on who you talk to, and I know people on the right side of the ideological spectrum don't agree with this, but health care spending had to be reined in. There was no question about it.
Well,
is it a perfect bill? It's
that.
Definitely not. Yeah. But there is $1 trillion worth of deficit savings in this bill over the next 2 decades, according to the Congressional Budget Office.
The same CBO that's since come out and said some of these other provisos are much more expensive than earlier thought. My point is not to belabor health care, just to point out that you've got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
And I think he's done that. Well, I mean, what he said is...
But Erica, you understand here, this is something I had against the prior president in financial rescues and big spending. You've got to practice what you preach. You might argue the merits of all of this spending, but if the end result is that it has created far bigger deficits for whatever altruistic gains, it still is, at the end of the day, deficit spending.
But you know what? Let me just take out this president, take out this Congress. You know, because these are, you know, the Congress people are in for 2 years. The president, I hope, will be reelected, but we'll see. What he's trying to put in place is something that will address a structural problem. So, you know, I mean, even assume that everybody in the exercise is a hypocrite at this point. You know, I don't agree with that, but just assume that's the case.
Yeah.
What he is actually trying to address with this piece of legislation is a structural problem. And the structural problem that we have is that we build budgets around what people in small congressional districts want. And the people who are higher up in the food chain in Congress get what they want. So Don
Right.
Young, who's the #2 person on appropriations, brought home, I think, $500 million worth of things for his state. You know, that's
All right.
not the way to solve
It's a
national
valid-
problems.
it's a
And
valid
so,
point. It's a
you
valid
know,
point.
I think
We'll see.
he's solving a structural problem, which I think is a great. I mean, we have a global economy,
Eric,
you know,
if
and we've
this
got to have an
happens,
ability to
then
solve
I'm
those
having
problems.
salads for the rest of my life. I'll let you weigh the odds on that.
Okay.
Erica Payne, thank you
Nice
very
to
much.
see you. Thanks a lot.
Same here. Well, the problem for Democrats is that if they say they're serious about getting spending under control, then, like I said,